Good morning. We're continuing on with elapsed time. You can see the essential question says, how can you solve elapsed time problems by converting units of time? Well, what do they mean, converting units of time? You want to think about seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years. It can go on and on. Most of the problems you need to deal with are going to be in seconds, minutes, hours, and a few with weeks. So remember that 60 seconds equals 1 minute, and 60 minutes equal 1 hour. That becomes critical if you have a problem where you need to borrow, because you're not borrowing in units of 10, you'd be borrowing groups of 60. If you look down here, one of the little cheat sheet things you need to remember is that a full clock face, which covers 12 hours of the day, many times problems will talk about a quarter of an hour. Well, a quarter of an hour would be this much right there, 1/4 of an hour. And what we didn't write in was the number 2. Okay, but we could figure it out that we're missing the 1, we're missing the 2, here's the 3. That would be 5, 10, 15 minutes. A quarter of an hour is going to equal 15 minutes. Sometimes they'll talk about a third of an hour, in which case we're missing the 1, the 2, the 3. We've split the 12 into 3 equal parts. Okay, 5, 10, 15, 20. A third of an hour equals 20 minutes. Here's a little quick cheat sheet you can always refer to. Same thing that I said just a minute ago, except this word now has the R on it because I was thinking quickly and didn't keep up. Going back to the problems in Go Math. A computer company claims its laptop has a battery that lasts 4 hours. The laptop actually ran for 200 minutes. You should be sensing a problem right here. Did the battery last 4 hours? 4 hours compared to 200 minutes. Okay, we can't really compare hours to minutes directly. We need to convert and use the same measurement. So 4 hours equals how many minutes? 60 minutes in 1 hour. If I do this as times 60, I know what this is. Use the basic fact. 4 times 6, 24. Tack on that 0. The computer company is claiming that it'll last 240 minutes. The problem says that it actually ran for 200 minutes. Did it last for 4 hours? Well, I think there that the answer is obvious. No. You only got 200 minutes, and they claimed you could have 240. This shows you how to think through the steps in a longer way, and if that works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, think about it just like we did right here. You should be able to do that problem in your head. Okay. Convert to mixed measures. Jill spent much of her summer away from home. She spent 10 days with her grandparents, 9 days with her cousins, and 22 days at camp. How many weeks and days was she away from home? They want to know weeks and days, but they've only given you information in days. 10 days plus 9 days plus 22 days. 22 plus 9, 31, 41. That's 41 days. Well, if she was gone for 41 days, what is that in weeks and days? Let me see. They're showing divide by 7. Why are they showing divide by 7? Because there are 7 days in 1 week. 41 days divided by 7. Use your 7 facts. Count by 7s until you get close to 41 without going over. Okay? 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42 goes over. I can't do that. 7 times 5 would be 35. So if I say, okay, 5 weeks, which is the same as 35 days, but then how many days were still left? 6. 41 take away 35 gives me this 6 left over. Play with it for a minute and see which style of thinking works for you. Use a number line to find elapsed time. I find this to be a more difficult way to think about things. Usually you can just count backwards. So Monica spent 2.5 hours working on her computer. If she started at 10:30 a.m., what time did Monica stop working? I know there are 30 minutes in half an hour. Okay, so let's use that half to cancel out this 30 minutes. Okay, she started working at 10. What time did, oh, this isn't a subtract problem. This is an add problem. I need to do 10:30 plus 2.5 hours. So 10:30, use the half to count up to 11, 12, 1. Reading the problem carefully would be the biggest challenge, I think, since you saw me just make a mistake reading it backwards. Okay, finding a start time. This is the count backwards problem. They need to be done by 12:15. Okay, the game is 1 3/4 hours long. So what time should the game begin to be sure that the team finishes on time? You're going to have to count backwards from 12:15. Here's your problem. 15 minutes, 3/4 of an hour. I would convert either the 3/4 to minutes, 1 hour, 45 minutes, or I would convert 12:15 to 12 1/4. If you get it into fractions, you can think about those fractional parts of a clock and work the problem out in your head, do it on paper, whatever you need to do. Why don't you pause the video and take just a minute to work that out? Come back to the video as soon as you've got an answer. Okay, in class we would have the share and show part where we would take turns coming up to the board. Work a couple of these and make sure that you're okay on them. The part I really want you to see is the part with the graph. So it says for 10 through 12, use the graph. You can look at this exact problem on Go Math by going to the student edition and getting yourself to chapter 10, section 7, and pull it up. If you want a page number, it's going to look like page 626. You can click right to it. So when you look at this graph, the thing to notice, they're talking about a podcast download time. They're talking about time as measured in seconds. Clearly, the one that took the longest to do the job was Top Hat. It took them 1,050 seconds. The one who took the least amount of time was Groovebox. It took them 173 seconds. The questions say, which internet services downloaded the podcast in less than 4 minutes? Well, again, I've got to think conversions. 4 minutes, I need to be talking about seconds. If I do 4 times 60, I'm going to get 240 seconds. And that is going to be critical to answering the questions. So the question says, which internet services downloaded the podcast in less than, let's change that to 240 seconds. Easy. More than 240, less than 240, more than 240, less than 240. So you can answer that question without even doing a whole lot of math. Which service took the longest to download the podcast? How much longer did it take than Red Fox in minutes and seconds? So the one that took the longest, the one with the longest bar on this chart, was Top Hat. You need to figure out the difference between 1,050 and 980. That's a simple math problem, and I know you know how to do it. Your answer will be in seconds. Pause the video for just a minute and at least mentally, if not on paper, at least mentally figure out the difference between 1,050 and 980. Your answer in your head should be in seconds. You're going to have to convert that to minutes and seconds. If you've got a number of seconds, divide by 60. Take out a group of 60 seconds. That's how many times you take out a group of 60 is how many minutes you've got. The leftovers would be leftover seconds. Play with this for a while and make sure you're okay to do it. Then read the rest of the instructions on Google Classroom before you go on,